7 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, a very good Monday evening to you, May the 18th, 1987. Bob Lassiter with you until 11, as I am every Monday through Friday, right here at News Talk 57 WPLP. We've got 3 hours, we'll call them open tonight, just between you and I. One more time, the big guy parades himself out in front of the cameras and delivers one of those great speeches designed to make you kind of feel good about yourself, feel good about being an American, and kind of to help you forget the clowns in this administration, their stupid folly, and the fact that 28 more American boys are dead tonight for no reason under the sun. There were 2 quotes that come to mind in particular out of today's little rousing speech. The first one, there are hazards in the defense of freedom. Well, yes, indeed, Ronald Reagan, there are many, many hazards in the defense of freedom. But there are also hazards in the pursuit of stupid policies. And the second quote that comes to mind, speaking of the 28 dead Americans and roughly, 15 now, I believe is the last count I heard, seriously injured. Their loss will not be in vain. Kind of sounds like we will ford any river, move any mountain until the jackals are brought to justice. Another great Ronald Reagan speech as they were carrying dead Americans home because of his stupid, inane policies. As a matter of fact, the entire story sounds all too familiar, doesn't it? The Middle East, dead Americans, needlessly dead Americans. There's a very strong resemblance to the Beirut airport massacre, where some 240-plus Marines died one Sunday morning. Died in a futile show of force. They died in a display of bravado. They died because men and equipment were put at risk. Put at risk for what purpose? Beats the hell out of me. It beats the hell out of me. And here we come again, to a Sunday night this time, and another display of bravado, men and equipment put at risk. For what purpose? Beats the hell out of me. Supposedly to protect shipping. And yet the protectors were obviously incapable of defending themselves. Seems to raise an awful lot of rather interesting questions, wouldn't you think? Little things like, does anyone in this administration have any idea at all as to what in the hell they are doing? Besides padding the pockets of their friends in California in the defense industry? Oh, another question that might come to mind. If a third world country using off-the-rack 1960s weapons can knock out a state-of-the-art United States warship, what do you think a real enemy could do? Or another question that kind of comes to mind. What in the hell are we supposedly getting for our $300 billion a year in defense spending, besides large profits for the administration's friends in the arms industry? Or still another question that comes to mind. If we are neutral in the Iran-Iraqi war, why are we involved in both sides? Why do we sell arms to one nation, give sensitive intelligence information to another, and then support its closest ally? Is it possible, could it possibly be that Iraq perpetrated this terrible accident because they're just a little bit peeved over the Iran arms sales? Could Iraq possibly have perpetrated this terrible accident because they're a little bit peeved over the false intelligence that we fed them? Or still other questions that come to my mind. When in the hell are the Western nations going to catch on to the stupidity of selling sophisticated arms to third world nations that continually come back to haunt us? When? When are we going to mind our own business? When are we going to learn the difference between national security and inconvenience? There is a hell of a difference. How many more boys must die before we realize that the days of gunboat diplomacy are long gone? And one last question that comes to mind. How tall are you standing tonight? How much respect around the world has this latest fiasco earned Uncle Sam? Oh, you can bellow all you want to bellow. You can damn this one and you can damn that one. And you can curse me too if you'd like. But it won't do you a damn bit of good. Because your beloved leaders in Washington and his ship of fools have put together a policy that is so foolish as to be laughable. If there weren't 28 boxes on their way home tonight filled with American boys. So you can pound the table. You can dust off your medals. You can say, if only I was 20 again, I'd... Or any other kind of asinine thing that you would like to say. But there will be no retaliation. Because that would give Iran an advantage in the war. This administration, that they don't want either side to win. Period. It is their stated policy. And the loss of so much as one Iraqi plane could tip the scales. There will be no retaliation. So I beg to differ with our beloved big guy, Ronald Wilson Reagan. Those 28 did indeed die in vain. And we're now down one warship as well. Or to put it another way, our defenses are weaker today than they were yesterday. For no reason under the sun. And if it makes any difference to you, you can add to that all of the smirking around the world tonight as once more we prove our ineptness, as once more we put ourselves into a corner that we can't get out of. The truth of the matter is, boys and girls, the Iraqis could have taken out a half a dozen ships last night, and there's nothing we could do about it. The Iranians could do the same tonight with the exact same immunity. So what in the hell are we doing there? It's kind of hard to stand proud and tall when you put yourself over a barrel, isn't it? How much more of this are you going to put up with? How much more? I know it's a little bit off the topic, but just to give you an idea as to how swift this administration is. Last week, right before the Iran-Contra hearings adjourned for the week, the witness, and I know this went completely over your head, so that's why I'm explaining it to you. The witness was being led through his story. And he came to one point and he said, well, there were 3 or 4 people in the car. And the prosecutor stopped him and said, was one of them a woman? And the witness answered, yes. And the prosecutor said, what was her name? He didn't ask about the other people in the car, just this one woman, because he was trying to get this one woman's name on the record, because she will obviously have some role to play in the days to come. And the witness answered her name was Barbara Studley. Well, maybe the name Barbara Studley doesn't mean anything to you, and frankly, I can't think why it should, unless you were one of a handful of people who resided in Miami a few years ago and listened to radio station WNWS, because if you were, then you might remember Barbara Studley, a conservative talk show host. This is an administration that runs foreign policy with men who are sick like Sam Hall,
little boys who have yet to grow up, such as Ollie North, and female conservative talk show hosts from Miami. That should give you an idea as to just how sharp these clowns are. They think that the world is their oyster to play with as they so desire. And you have known all along what this administration's convoluted foreign policy is in the Middle East. You've known it all along. There is no escaping it. You cannot deny it. You can pretend to have forgotten, but it has been driven home time and time and time and time again. But I guess maybe you've been too busy wondering who Gary Hart was sleeping with to say anything in complaint. And besides, what the hell, you didn't die last night because of that simpleton's foolishness. The first rule of diplomacy is never make a threat that you are not prepared to carry out. Never. And when you send in the fleet with no intention of using it, you violate that rule. And when you violate that rule, you destroy any credibility that you may have had left. Well, obviously, this administration has virtually no credibility left in foreign policy, but just in case they did, here's still another attempt to destroy it. Obviously, neither Iran nor Iraq were very impressed with our beloved leader Ronald Wilson Reagan's great victory in Grenada. Fact of the matter is, no one was except for John Q. Public in America. So if I were you, I'd get ready for still another one of those great retreats into the sunset with all kinds of fantastic rhetoric and fist-shaking. You can expect a beautiful, really hell-raising, tearful speech as Ronald Wilson Reagan goes to welcome the caskets back home. He'll say things like, he's putting the barbarians on notice, as the tears roll down his cheeks. He's very good at that. He's made many such speeches as they brought home American boys who died needlessly because of his convoluted policies. Who would have thought 2 days ago that the administration will welcome the resumption of the Contragate hearings tomorrow to take some of the heat off of this one? But damn it, the truth of the matter is that you deserve it. Because you love it when we meddle in other nations' affairs. For some strange reason, it kind of makes you feel macho. It somehow makes you feel important. That you can sit home in Tampa Bay and your government can tell some poor slob living on the other side of the world in conditions that you can't begin to conceive of how in the hell he's going to live. And for some strange reason, you seem to love it when we play both ends against the middle. And no nation has ever won by doing that. You never seem to notice. You just never, ever seem to notice that the only people who are running around warning us of the dangers of our national security, running around here, there, and everywhere, screaming about, oh, it's our national security's at stake. Oh, my God, we do this or the world comes to an end. You never seem to notice that the only clowns doing that are the clowns who make their living from war. And, of course, their friends. Why didn't you ever notice that? It's only arms merchants and defense contractors and generals. These are the only people that see a threat to national security. And, of course, their friends. The week before last, a man who makes his living as an arms merchant lectured the United States Congress for going through a democratic process. Last week, a punk kid sat there and lectured the United States Congress for going through a democratic process, while at the same time the two gentlemen were desperately trying to justify their own actions in an attempt to bring democracy to Nicaragua. Why can't you see these things for yourself? The one man was a slightly overstuffed retired admiral. Or excuse me, general. Now turned arms merchant. The other was a pimply-faced young punk who works for a defense contractor. And already I've heard the great armchair admirals on talk radio today taking time out from their busy schedules of beer drinking and bowling to condemn the ship's officers, never mindful of the stupidity that put the ships and their officers in that region, in a tiny little cluttered piece of water, in a war zone. Already the stupid responses from the public are pouring out. One jerk I heard today say, well, if the Israelis, blah, 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 lost 28 people, blah, 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 they take out 28 Iraqi jets. Well, maybe the Israelis would, but then the Israelis don't have a stupid foreign policy like we do that plays both ends against the middle, because we can't take out 28 Iraqi jets. If we did, then Iran would win the war. And if Iran won the war, they'd continue right into Kuwait, and we have a defense pact with Kuwait that calls for American troops to defend Kuwait. Didn't you know that? How many times do you have to be told? It's true. That, my dear friends, is why you won't get your retribution. And if you have any boys of draft age, you should pray that you don't get your retribution. Oh, but that wasn't the only stupid response from the public today. There's the usual, the Russians, blah, 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 blah. If they did that to the Russians, blah, 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 blah. They'd start the Third World War, blah, 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 blah. If the jerk had bothered to read his morning newspaper, he would have seen that the Russians have already gotten it twice this week. I know, details. And then, of course, there are all the great, well, you know, I was once in the Navy back in '03. Yeah, I used to sit in the crow's nest. And I'm telling you how it works. They should have all been on general quarters. Yeah, in hindsight, great. Try this hindsight on for size. They shouldn't have been there in the first place because they couldn't do the job. It's an impossible job. It can't be done. Period. And then, of course, the most brilliant, stupid call from the public I heard today. Why, the whole problem is Congress. It's Congress. Let the military do its job. No, sir, the problem is not Congress. Not in this case, anyway. In this case, the problem is Ronald Wilson Reagan, because he gave the military a job it can't do. It has nothing to do with tying hands behind the back. What it has to do with is sending ships and men into a very small, cluttered piece of water that is filled with radar blips, both on the sea and in the air. Very, very heavy sea lane traffic. Very, very heavy air traffic. In a relatively narrow body of water. Virtually any airplane flying north or south, east or west with an Exocet missile is in position to take out your ship. So again Ronald Reagan can come on the television and bellow about his increased level of readiness and his threats to take out planes that look like they're hostile. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. The rules, boys and girls, have changed. The future has passed us by. Our Navy, in its present form, and especially as it's being used in the Persian Gulf, is obsolete. Its usefulness, its effectiveness is obsolete. It is only useful, it is only effective against an unarmed nation who pose no threat to us anyway. You can still sail an aircraft carrier off the coast of Jamaica and scare the hell out of them. But it just doesn't work anyplace else. Anyplace else where they've got $1 million and an airplane. Here are the facts, boys and girls. A $200 million state-of-the-art warship was rendered useless by a $1 million easily produced missile that is readily available to any country with an airplane and $1 million. And you don't even have to buy them from France. You can buy them from an arms merchant in Switzerland. Warships as we use them are obsolete. They are nothing more than a status symbol for a bathtub Commodore, like Ronald Wilson Reagan. As effective fighting machines, they have long outlived their usefulness. Their cost and their maintenance are killing us. And the way that we are using them endangers us. And the time has more than come to reassess the wisdom of keeping a large fleet of obsolete, vulnerable warships that are only effective against unarmed adversaries. So don't blame the men of the USS Stark for this. Blame the administration for its stupid blunders in diplomacy and strategy and their adherence to obsolete weapons. To continue to fund the construction and the maintenance of the U.S. Navy as we know it today is just a waste of money. It's a risk of life and gives you a false sense of security that does not exist. And to continue this obsession with trying to run the world is only going to lead to more humiliation at best. Tomorrow night, it might be a Soviet plane that's flying 40 miles away. And that's something you better think about. Let me give you the telephone numbers. Hillsborough 224 8:33 the time. One line open. It's in Hillsborough County. 224-0057. St. Petersburg. Hi, you're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, I'd like to disagree with you on 2 points, Bob. The first point is that the Soviets have made a commitment that they've chartered 3 tankers to Kuwait that Kuwait is depending on...
I'm very well aware of that. I said nothing to the contrary.
Right, but...
They also have warships in the Persian Gulf.
So, in other words, you are suggesting that we let that Gulf become a Soviet lake.
No, sir, it's not what I'm suggesting at all. What I'm suggesting is that neither the Soviets nor us can do a damn thing about it, because the Soviets aren't about to intervene in that war either.
But they haven't chickened out yet. The other point...
Whoa. What do you mean they haven't chickened out yet? What's that mean?
Exactly what I said. Now let me make the other point.
No, not until I know what the hell you've said. What do you mean they haven't chickened out yet?
They are remaining there. Now let me make the other point, please.
Go ahead.
I think you're going off half-cocked here as far as whether or not we have the technology to defend against the missiles or not.
So there's a ship sinking tonight that says we don't.
We don't know the inquiry why the ship did not maneuver and at least try to destroy the missile, or if it did try to destroy the missile.
It's very simple, sir, because you can't tell in that part of the world who in the hell's a friend and who ain't. It's a very narrow body of water.
The investigation is not complete yet as to what happened in the actual...
Yeah, I know the investigation is not complete, sir, but I also know how wide the body of water is. I know that on one side of the body of water is a nation that's at war. On the other side of the body of water are two nations that are hopelessly paranoid. And there is constant air traffic. And to the north of the body of the water is another nation that's at war. There is constant air traffic.
There is a weapon on this frigate that supposedly sometimes can shoot down the Exocet-type missile.
Yes, sir, with about a 50-50...
It has to be fired from the stern of the vessel.
Right, sir, with about a 50-50 probability of hitting the missile.
Possibly.
It's called a Gatling gun.
Right, but however, we don't know what the situation on whether it was tried to be employed or not.
Doesn't make any difference, sir. We've got a ship that's sinking. We've got other nations that have lost ships to it. It is a very, very difficult missile to defend against.
You better surrender, Bob.
Yeah, I had better surrender, right, sir. There he goes. Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, I have a couple questions to pose to you. What do you suggest that Americans do then, if you feel
not put themselves at risk, sir? That's what I suggest.
Well, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, right. I'd be delighted to, sir. I suggest that Americans don't jeopardize their national security by making their warships sitting ducks in a situation where they can do nothing. We cannot and we will not go after either Iran or Iraq. Because this administration, sir, has put themselves in a box. If Iraq loses, then Iran is going to go into Kuwait. If Iran loses, the administration is convinced that the Soviets will be in Tehran in a day. We won't go over either nation, sir.
You don't think that there's any validity to the position Washington's taken on that? You don't think that the Russians would go into Tehran?
Sir, there's not a damn thing that's stopping them now.
So why haven't they gone in?
Because it would be the beginning of the Third World War, sir. And they know it, and we know it, and they're not about to go.
Okay, so...
There's a much easier way to start the Third World War than marching through mountain passes into a stupid country like Iran.
All right.
Much easier way, sir.
Okay, you've made that statement. So what does the Russians have to gain by hoping that Iran does lose if they themselves don't want to...
No, sir, the Russians have the exact same policy we do. They don't want to see either side win.
So it's better that we stay there
for different reasons.
Create a Mexican standoff. As far as
at what cost, sir?
Pardon me?
At what cost, sir?
Minimal.
Oh, that's real easy for you to say. You weren't one of the 28 people that died last night.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you're just a punk sitting home in your chair saying minimal.
Well, you're the man with all the answers. How come you're not running for president?
None of your damned business.
That's because you can't do it.
Really?
Yeah. If you could do it, and you have so many answers, you would run.
Is that the best you can do, huh? Is that the best you can do, little boy?
Can you do any better?
I just did for 25 minutes.
Pardon me?
I just did for 25 minutes.
You spouted off for 25 minutes.
Right, and you have now not spouted off for 2.5 because you don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
You don't know what the policies are. You don't know what the ramifications are. You just don't like what I'm saying. But you're not even intelligent enough to know why you don't like it.
Are you a PhD, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. And how do you know that I'm not intelligent?
I've just spent 3 minutes of my time talking with you.
You spent 3 minutes of your time running your mouth about things that I don't feel that you know any more about than I do. I don't feel that you are privy to intelligence information any more than I am. You are.
No, sir. I'm privy to what the administration has told me is their policy in that part of the world.
But the administration has told you?
That's right, and you too, if you'd listen.
Well, I listen. I listen a whole lot.
Well, then, sir, if you did, you would know what their policy is. They will not retaliate against either nation because a retaliatory attack against either nation would shift the balance of power. The Iraqis, the Iranians can sit there and pick off our warships one after another and say, oops, an accident. Oh, my goodness, we thought it was a tugboat. And there's nothing that we can or will do.
You don't think we would retaliate?
I'm telling you flat out, sir, no.
Okay. I think you're wrong.
Well, you can think I'm wrong all night and all day, sir. But it happens to be true.
Well, if something does happen out there, another incident, I will be back in touch with you and we'll find out who's right.
Oh, I look forward to that with breathless anticipation.
Good.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Great. Sarasota, you're on air at WPLP.
Hello, Bob. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I enjoyed that input this evening. I think you were doing a real service to us all. I mean, I think anyone that won't even pretend they've been half informed whenever we start building up this Navy from, what was it, the 400-ship Navy to the 600-ship Navy and taking all the World War II battleships and throwing them into the line and looking for some confrontation. And then the best technology we have, some way this is the administration that's going to give us Star Wars. I mean, we should all be shuddering with our teeth when we start exercising this primitive gunboat diplomacy. I've often wondered, the widows, the mothers, the ones that went through the agony of the Vietnam War, if they'd had a little more, you might say, the spooky geopolitics of the Gulf of Tonkin, or some of the people that 50,000 people that were lost there in the Korea that had known a little bit more about the soybean trading that all the Formosans were dealing in very heavily. Still a heavily censored part of our history. But see, Irving Stone on the Korean thing wrote a beautiful dialogue of what, and even the U.S. Senate censored all the hearings dealing with that. The emphasis was that we were doing something in the Korean Peninsula we weren't telling the American people, and I think that in the Persian Gulf, we're doing the same thing. The theory is that we're backed up against the board. We don't have any policy that makes even any sense, probably to the Washington, you might say, bureaucrats, think tanks, only bringing in cheap fuel to where we can stoke the fires of the Americans with their holiday cars. I mean, when's this stuff all going to be unwound, and when are people, whether it's in the Gulf of Mexico or whether it's in the Gulf of the Persian Gulf there, Bob, when are people going to have some accountability? I'm talking about lifestyles. Are you there, Bob?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, what I would like to bring a little closer to home, we don't know much about what's happening in the Persian Gulf, but you hit something very close to home whenever you started talking about the talk show host in Miami. This woman was not anyone that I'm familiar with, but we should be a lot closer to what we're doing in our own Gulf, in our own backyard. And there was a beautiful, there was a point-blank disclosure of what has happened in Miami. I spent some time there in the 50s down the Coconut.
No, I don't want to get involved in anything about what's going on in Miami. That was just a little aside to make a point.
No, it was. I was hitting on the fascist hammer that has taken over the Miami scene.
Sir, I know all about it, and that's not the topic of conversation tonight. Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hey, Bob, I can't believe Reagan keeps doing this to the American fighting man. It's a disgrace that American lives are continually being wasted for this crazy fool, Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Yeah, their loss will not be in vain, he said tonight. Won't it, Ronnie?
It's it. You know, and the American public is so blind and so ignorant with this Top Gun mentality that swept over the youth of our country. It's just ridiculous that we continue to see people supporting this president's policies. It's just totally a wasted policy. That the idea that we can even defend against one of these Exocet missiles with the hardware that's on this boat. I watched 3 different news reports tonight, and everybody had a different viewpoint on the effectiveness of the defense.
Well, let us
against the Exocet, none of it works most of the time.
Let us assume that it worked flawlessly 100% of the time. Let us assume that for the sake of this conversation. the fact still remains that our warships there can't retaliate against an aggressor.
Right. They don't even have any air cover. They've got the AWACS planes are being operated by Saudi Air Force troops. They're being flown by American pilots. Supposedly, one of the Persian Gulf allies of ours was having planes in the air at the time, and they turned around and went the other way.
That's right, Saudi Arabia.
And I've watched I've watched three different networks news reports tonight, and it's just amazing that Reagan keeps sticking our neck out, and we just keep waving the flag every time we get our head chopped off.
It is an absolutely futile, we won't do anything to change the balance of power between Iran and Iraq. And they're the only two aggressors you've got to worry about.
In this Iran-Contra gate business, we've deliberately given Iran and Iraq defective intelligence for a price. We've sold these people defective intelligence to prolong conflict.
How many times in the last 5 years have you heard Iran is on the brink of defeat, Iraq is on the brink of defeat, and miraculously how they come back to parity? They're coming back to parity because of intervention.
That's it. It's not that we have any political loss to worry about. It's the fact that we've got all these billions of U.S. petrodollars tied up in that part of the world, and the United States really isn't that dependent on Middle Eastern oil when we've got Mexico starving to death down here because of the deflated value of the currency and the fatted up oil glut right now.
20%.
Turn our back on that part of the world. I'm ready to leave.
20% of the world's oil, 20% of the Western world's oil goes through the Persian Gulf.
Right.
We could survive easily if Mexico didn't pump another drop of oil in addition to what they're already pumping. We could survive in the Western world by tightening our belts, a 20% decrease.
Well, there sure isn't any emphasis on conservation anymore, is there? All these brilliant conservatives that are supposedly running the country. Where's our conservatism?
There isn't any, sir. They're not conservatives. They're right-wingers.
Bob, let me get out of the way. I know other people want to get in here, and thanks very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good night.
Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Good evening, Bob. I'd just like to thank you for the little discourse that you gave earlier. You're exactly right. And if America doesn't wake up soon, there's going to be a lot more incidents in a lot more widely scattered area than just the Persian Gulf. Korea, for instance, right now is a pretty hot spot, as well as Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Honduras. As you were saying, this administration is putting us into a very difficult position in the foreign diplomacy aspect of things. I think if a lot more people woke up and realized just what position their sons and daughters and nephews and nieces and brothers and sisters were put in when they were in the military, then there'd be a lot less volunteer military.
I hear what you're saying.
I'd just like to thank you once again for attacking people's sensibilities about something they should be awoke on. Because it's not right what America is doing in a lot of these foreign countries. When there's people starving, they'd rather sell them weapons so that they can destroy each other and then eventually turn back on us.
Thank you much.
All right, you have a good evening.
You too.
This just it.
The time, Treasure Island. Hi, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hello. As usual, your dissemination of your prologue was very good. You do your homework. One thing I've noticed, and I don't know, probably it's come to your attention, but our Secretary of State Schultz, he hasn't been in this country for a couple of months, has he?
Well, of course he has. He just has.
Oh, I mean, he seems to be like he's on the road most of the time.
Well, that's what he's supposed to be, on the road most of the time. But yes, he's been in this country quite often. He just is not in the news.
Mm-hmm. All right. What I saw was Novak and Braden, and they had Khashoggi on, the Iranian ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
And he pinned him down, and he come up with a 2 or 3 different ways, and the Iranian ambassador looked, and he had a beard, so you don't know if he was smirking or laughing or what, but he as much as said, well, you put them out there, we're going to take them out. We're going to sink ships. They don't care whose they are.
I know, it's been their policy all along.
No, and they're going to do it.
I suspect they will.
And
they will do it with immunity from this country.
You know, that region alone, all regions have had their wars for years and years, and these roots go so deep that they can't just come up with one little solution.
The only advantage Iran has in the war with Iraq is its superior manpower. There is no way in hell that we're going to go in and bomb large military bases. The air problem with Iran and Iraq is so tenuous that there's no way in hell that we're going to take out any of Iran's airplanes. And the oil situation is such that we're not going to take out any of their oil terminals. What are we going to do, bomb desert?
Well, that's been noted before. There isn't much there.
And again, with Iraq, they have very little manpower. Their strength is in their air force.
Indeed.
So what are we going to do? Knock out Iraqi planes and change the balance of power so that the Iranians can just walk in and go right on through to Kuwait? No, there's nothing we're going to do. There's nothing we can do.
Well, it's funny, though, that we got the whacks up there. They see what airplanes are around. They can't do a damn thing about it, though, apparently.
Well, no, the body of water is so small, the air traffic's so heavy, that you can't tell for sure. If you'll remember back to the days of the Falkland War, these Exocet missiles can be fired from a very long range. As soon as the plane locks on with its radar, it can fire the missile. It doesn't have to be 10 miles away.
But wasn't it my understanding that a few of them missed? Somehow or other they evaded them?
Yes.
And I don't know, I suppose it was...
Do you recall how that was done?
No, I think it was through radar or something.
No, it was through helicopters.
I see.
Taking a helicopter and just riding it up and down in front of the ship, trying to draw off the missile, and then hoping against hope that the helicopter can get up just in the nick of time so that the missile will go in between it and the ship.
Ain't that beautiful?
Yeah. That's how the British were able to do it.
Well,
when they were able to do
it, but I wasn't sure. That's the first time I heard that one. Well, but anyway, the Iranian ambassador, and I'm pretty sure he's speaking for Khomeini, and he didn't mean only the United States. He meant Russia.
Let me come back to that point. Again, I'll say, even for the purposes of this conversation, if our defenses against the Exocet were 100%, even if they were, there is nothing we can do except to be there. And every time another ship is attacked, be it a merchant ship, a tanker, whatever, every time another ship is attacked and nothing is done, every time another American warship is attacked, even if it successfully evades the attack, we just demonstrate over and over again our ineptness and our inability to respond.
That's right, weakness. I definitely agree with you. But we've got to get some kind of a foreign policy, and be regular with it. I mean, we may be wrong at times with it, but let's make it, how should we say, consistent.
Yeah, a few more great speeches and a little more consistency.
Oh, yeah, well, these lives are not going to go in vain. We've heard all those speeches before. Okay, Bob, I'll let somebody else on tonight.
Thank you much. One line open. It's in Pinellas, St. Pete. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Just a little summary of things that I was thinking about just on an angle on this. It seems really interesting to me, and I'm sure that we're aware that through our covert CIA operations, our military-industrial complex, the whole structure of things, that we have been supplying weapons to both sides.
Oh, of course.
They also are aware of that, and they don't see us as friends. They understand that we are prolonging war, but to carry on with my thought on this, it'd be very interesting to me that they better watch out in that Persian Gulf for Iran, because I can just see Khomeini and that operation hitting one of our ships again now and sending the very same kind of a letter as a sense of an apology.
Yeah, oh, so sorry, accident.
So, really, and right now, what an interesting time. People always laugh at this Mullah Khomeini, and they laugh and joke about him, but he brought down one president. He's nearly brought down another president. The power that he holds in the Mideast and all of that is going on, and his fanaticism, he's an ideal character to start a third world war, because he's crazy enough, and he's smart and he's shrewd. They laugh and say how dumb he is. He isn't dumb. We're dumb. This is this big nation. And he's been clobbering us diplomatically and in foreign relations, and they even laughed at our whole scenario. He's not a fool.
He also has an awful lot of people who would be delighted for a suicide mission against one of our ships.
Oh, yes, he would. And then just to handle it in the same way, just to see how we handle it. Hey, they're estranged enough to do that.
That's right.
Anyway, Bob, take good care.
I'll try.
Okay.
Be good. Dunedin, your turn at WPLP.
Hey, Bob Lassiter, how you doing, baby? It's the old man Jack, and I'm telling you, man, the subhuman pig is coming at you right now.
North Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Howdy.
Hi.
Bob, I want to thank you. Thanks for opening eyes, and telling it like it is, and setting the record straight.
Well, it's just awfully obvious. Everybody should be able to see it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I was wondering how come the people can't seem to have any concern about the big budget movies and the big money ball players today, high entertainment, the way that it started accelerating and everything. And, I know it was the late 70s, but, entertainment,
What does that have to do with what I'm talking about tonight?
That money goes back to California, and there's a lot, that might not be a valid point in this, but I think it is. Because more people are distracted by the entertainment of today, and not worried about what's going on in the world, Their world is the ballpark or the, arena and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And the more money that goes into that, too, And there seems to be big money ball players out there and big money movie stars and all this stuff, Well, that money's got to be coming from somewhere. $100 billion, isn't that being pumped mostly to California? With defense contracts, stuff. You think that winds up in the movie industry? Sure. What's the biggest industry besides the movie industry in California,
Computer industry, sir.
Computer, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you much for the input anyway. Two lines open, one in each county. Hillsborough, 224-0057. Pinellas, 393-0057. CBS News coming your way at the top of the hour. All the latest national and international news, probably even a little bit of gossip and maybe even an amusing story at the end to make you smile. Don't go far. We still have 2 hours left. 7 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of 3 on this Monday night, May the 18th, 1987. Same story as we went into the newscast. Two lines open, one in each county. Hillsborough, 224-0057. Pinellas, 393-0057. Safety Harbor, thanks for holding. You're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions for you, Bob. What makes you think that we ain't going to retaliate against these guys?
Sir, I've gone through an hour now of telling you why.
Well, that's what everybody thought about Beirut whenever they said we weren't going to retaliate against them.
And we didn't, sir.
Yes, we did. We went in there and blew up half the country.
Sir, you're crazy. We didn't.
No, I'm not crazy.
Yes, you are, sir.
No, okay, now...
Now, if you're talking about the New Jersey sitting 20 miles off the coast and blowing craters in the sides of mountains, not hitting anything...
Is that why one of Gaddafi's kids were killed?
Sir?
Yeah.
Gaddafi lives in Libya, which is about 1,000 miles up the road.
Well, another question, okay. Why is President Reagan going to accept their apology? They figure if he can get away with it once, they're going to just continue right on blowing our ships up.
They can, sir.
I'm asked.
Yeah, I know you do, sir. Because you don't have an ounce of brains in your head, which we've amply demonstrated with this call. Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I'll agree with you 100%. Give Reagan hell. I'm going to listen at you. Give heaven, hell. I'll agree with you 100%.
St. Pete, you're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, hi. I don't agree 100%. I agree 75%. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, and the reason that all this hullabaloo is going on overseas is because they're not looking in their own backyards. And people aren't looking in their own backyards. We're the ones that in 1980 started exposing the PTL. And people didn't want to listen. People tried to intimidate us because of it. And 700 Club and homosexuals in the Episcopal Church and blah, blah, blah. And because of what is going on in this country, they can get away with what is going on in, the other countries. The president can do these things because people would rather sit around and drink their stinking booze and smoke their stinking pot than to get up and do something about it. I'm a natural mother of 5 and a grandmother of 6. And we're on the expose Fight for Christian Rights. We open U.S. Supreme Court doors this year. And I'm going to be free to remarry and to adopt 44 children. And I want to tell you something right now. It's been one terrible fight. It has been one terrible fight. Because more people will stand up for sluts and everything else than they will to straighten the moral of either gender. And it's because of this that these things are going on overseas. But I can't say I agree with you 100%, but Robert, I do agree 75%. I didn't appreciate some of your language, but sometimes you have to speak in tongues. Sometimes it's the only language some people seem to understand.
Okay.
Hey, God love, and I'm glad. I was beginning to wonder, as I've been shut off twice, I was beginning to wonder if WPLP is appreciated straight moral woman. God love you, thanks. Bye.
Hillsborough 224-0057, Pinellas 393-0057, Sarasota, you're on the air at WPLP.
Now, Bob, how are you doing? Hello?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just trying to remember the last time we ever retaliated against anybody that's done anything similar to this. I'm just beginning to wonder if we've got anybody that's got any backbone in this country besides the people that...
It's not a matter of backbone, sir.
What's it a matter of, then?
It's a matter of putting yourself in a box. They can't retaliate. It has nothing to do with backbone. They have convinced themselves that if one side wins, it will be an advantage for the Soviet Union, and that if the other side wins, it will be disaster in the Middle East.
Yeah. Well,
so that's why there will be no retaliation, sir. It has nothing whatsoever to do with spunk or backbone or courage.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me like we could keep our ships. At least we know what the problem is over there and what a bad situation it is while we've got a ship floating around that close over there to begin with.
Because there's somebody in the White House, sir, that thinks it makes him look big.
A frigate, I don't see how that can make anybody look big. It's not exactly our destroyer-type ship.
Wouldn't make any difference, sir, if it was a destroyer. Wouldn't make any difference if it was a fleet of aircraft carriers. They still can't retaliate.
I was just listening to Weinberger and his statement about how he believed that there was nobody's at fault. It seems to me like they didn't take them very long to make a decision that it was an accident. It just seems to me like it's...
They have no other choice, sir.
Yeah.
They have to consider it an accident. They have no other choice.
Right.
Because if indeed they came out and said, oh, this is a barbaric act on the part of Iraq, then the American people would demand blood. And there's no way in hell that this administration is going to cripple Iraq. Because if it does, then the Iranians win the war. And if the Iranians win the war, they've already said we're going next to Kuwait. And if they go to Kuwait, we have a defense pact with Kuwait. It would require literally American troops defending Kuwait against the Iranians. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's a no-win situation.
Well, it makes you wonder what's going to happen if either one does win the war. What kind of a situation are we going to be in then?
Well, I guess we'll find out. Somebody's going to win it sooner or later.
Okay, Bob, thanks.
Take care, because again, we have an administration with a publicly stated policy of, oh, we want a negotiated settlement. You have two lunatic fringes fighting a religious war, And this administration thinks they're going to sit down and negotiate? No. Well, of course, this is the administration that thinks that this ragtag bunch of jerks running around the mountains of Nicaragua are going to force the Sandinistas down to the negotiating table to give back what they fought hard and long to get. This administration has a very peculiar sense of humor. Well, I look down at my phones and I see that they're empty. I consider the last half dozen calls that I've had and the quality of about 4 of them. And I sit here and I wonder now, do you start talking about cherry pie and cookie recipes and say, to hell with these people, or do you hold them to the line? I'm going to hold you to the line. This is what we're talking about tonight. This is what we're going to continue talking about tonight. From now until 11 o'clock. I've had my say. The rest is up to you. I'll just go through the paper while you're getting your thoughts together. I mean, I know it's not nearly as much fun as the other people who do their shows in this town, where they let you call up and say the most inane things and don't challenge you. But, you know, hey, that's the way it goes. Isn't that amazing? Suddenly we have a board full of people. St. Petersburg, you're on the air at WPLP.
I guess I don't think your speech was strong enough. There are a few things that evidently is not known by the public. One is armchair. Do you know about armchair?
No, sir, I'm not familiar with the term.
Okay, armchair is a system of communication between forward units and a situation room that's located in the United States. We've been using that for about 12, 14 years now. It's a way that the people in the United States can run a war and sit in the United States. Instant communication. It is my firm belief that ship was transmitting data to that situation room in the United States. There's no such thing as going to general quarters on that type of ship anyway.
Sir, it is irrelevant whether they went to general quarters or they didn't go to general quarters. It is irrelevant whether they knew in Washington or they didn't know in Washington.
Well,
the only thing that matters, sir, is that they're on an impossible mission. That they're sitting ducks.
Excuse me, but it's not irrelevant if what they knew in Washington. I think the ship was ordered not to fire back.
Sir, you're absolutely correct. Bingo. After 1 hour and 16 minutes and 17 seconds, finally I've gotten through to somebody. That's the whole purpose, sir. They were under orders not to fire back. They will always be under orders not to fire back because we will not retaliate. If we retaliate, we change the balance of power, sir, and we're not going to do that.
I think that the information was transmitted for a period of about 6 or 7 hours of tracking those airplanes, and Washington was...
Went right over your head, didn't it, sir? Right over your head.
It didn't go over my head. I understood every word you said. What you haven't heard is what I said.
Sir, it doesn't make any difference. They will never be permitted to fire. The whole purpose of the fleet being there is a foolish show of bravado, jeopardizing lives and equipment.
That's correct, and it's being done in a grandiose manner, okay? If you just listen for a few minutes, maybe somebody could help you. But if you're not interested in what...
Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, Bob, I was in L.A., and them Lakers are awesome.
Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Am I on there?
Yep.
Oh, how you doing? Yeah, I didn't know what to think about that. You know, when I was in the Middle East for a while when Jimmy Carter was president, they used to run us around pretty bad over there. Couldn't really... The Russians would actually cut you off in your course in the water, and you'd either have to turn or collide with them, and we always turned away. So it seems like it'd be the same thing today.
Okay.
Hey.
St. Pete, you're on there at WPLP.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. I've listened to your show, and for once, I agree with you 100%. I was in the Middle East in 1958 when we landed in Lebanon. And at that time, a British officer with whom I was quite familiar, knew quite well, said to me, "You Americans are going to get yourself involved in here. You don't know the politics, you don't know the religions, you don't know a damn thing about it, and you think money can buy everything. And you're going to be up to your, butt in alligators before you know it." And here we are, 19 years later, right where they said we'd be.
Well, it's the same way we behave all over the world. It has nothing to do with our not knowing the politics of the religion of the Middle East, because we make just as stupid mistakes in other parts of the world where we do know the politics and the religion.
No, but we did the same thing in Korea. No, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Right, sir.
Tampa, your turn at WPLP.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Fine.
I'm sorry I had to ask that trite question. Thanks for letting me vent by listening to you tonight. It wasn't much I could add to you other than something that you've already noticed but you didn't make a point of. The fact that as soon as the incident was reported, before Iraq even acknowledged that it was their plane, we had already stated that it was an error.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, if anything else, will verify or corroborate your premise that we will not retaliate. We knew damn well that we had to quickly defuse that, as you mentioned, because the American people would be calling for blood.
As they already have started to.
Yeah, and, when you think about that, the 28 guys dead, just add that to the 240 Marines, plus however many died in Grenada, the list of casualties with this administration goes up, up, and up. And why the American people will continue to sit and stand for this, I'll never be able to understand, regardless of the fact that Reagan's supposed a nice guy. I mean, how much of a nice guy you want to put up with. And then you think about the fact that this administration, not the Congress, cut veterans benefits this year. The same type of VA hospital is going to have to take care of the guys that's probably been maimed if they're unfortunate enough to still be living and need to be taken care of later on. Nobody talks about those people who were...
Nobody gives a damn about those people.
Beg pardon?
Nobody gives a damn about those people. You've already heard one man say on this program tonight, the 28, so what? Hey.
That's the goddamn, those are the damn war whips, I call them. They sit back here and they let other people go and subject themselves, and they don't give a damn, provided that they can still enjoy their yuppie benefits that's provided by these guys who really lay it on the line.
Oh, it's not even yuppie benefits. It's entertainment at night on the 7 o'clock news. That's all they're interested in.
I agree.
Hey, let's watch missiles firing. Oh, boy, that'll be neat.
Maybe we've conditioned people with all these video games. People still watch him let the tears roll down his cheek one more damn time while he go hug the victim. And for once, I'd like to see the people be smart enough to reject that kind of pseudo-sympathy, phony sympathy.
Well, I'll bet they're saying in the White House tonight, we just can't wait for those hearings to crank up again tomorrow.
You almost made me fall. I was running outside when you said that the first time. I almost tripped over a hole because you touched the chord with me. I agree the same thing. 1 week he was glad for something distracting, and now he's glad for them to start again. I don't know. I'm so PO'd. I don't know what to do when I think about, again, 28 of our boys dead for nothing. It's just like it's the same situation that occurred in Lebanon. There's no difference. You set people out there for no reason at all, and then when somebody finally take a shot at them, then we act like we're so damn shocked. I mean, what would a frigate being out there, as one guy tried to point out, what would a frigate being out there for no reason at all? I mean, if we're not there for a reason, then don't be there.
That's right. That's right. And that type of ship is better suited for anti-submarine warfare.
Exactly. Target practice.
Yeah, well, that's too now.
And I feel sorry for the captain who now is going to be sacrificed on the altar because he didn't fire back, and everybody knew damn well he couldn't fire back.
That's right.
If he could, he would have.
You better believe it.
How come we didn't launch planes from the carrier that was only in supersonic flight 3 minutes away? If we were really tracking it. I mean,
it took those jets almost an hour to get back home. We had an hour to go after them.
Exactly. I mean, even if you I know what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but and I'm a retired military for no other reason, you should have shot the bastards out of there. Just, even if you don't retaliate, shoot them out for stupidity. Let it be quid pro quo, although 2 doesn't equate to 28 of ours. But at least show some sign. But I know that this administration wouldn't do it.
No, because 2 Iraqi planes are very significant to the Iraqi war effort against Iran.
I agree.
And so consequently, they're untouchable.
Yeah, what a hell of a way to be in. We need the oil to come through. And at the same time, we want to support both sides. And then when they do something to us, we, the victims, have to quickly apologize for the aggressor before the aggressor, even know that, or even want to acknowledge that it was his plane.
And on top of that, you can bet your bottom dollar that if indeed we had shot those 2 planes down, we would have arranged with somebody to deliver 3 planes to Baghdad tomorrow morning to replace them.
I'm afraid that you're correct. But before I go off, I'd like to end on what I started with. This same administration that put our guys in jeopardy, please, people, look at what veteran benefits we provide for them when they lay it on the line. Absolutely nothing, and it's being cut. Even at the Veterans Hospital here locally, you don't have to read in the newspaper. Go out to the Veterans Hospital here and see what a hassle we put these guys through to get some kind of, some service. It's a shame. We allow ourselves to get fooled by this ignoramus. And I can't wait for the 2 years. I know we're not going to impeach him. I just can't wait for the 2 years to go by. God help us if nothing drastic doesn't happen.
Well, maybe if the American people ever catch on to what he's been doing, we won't have to wait for an impeachment. We'll have a lynching.
An impeachment would be cleansing, but I know it's asking for too much.
Thank you much.
Good night.
One line open. It's in Hillsborough.
To join in the conversation, the number to call in Hillsborough County is 224-0057. In Pinellas County, 393-0057. And anywhere else in Florida, 1-800-334-0057. First on your dial, WPLP.
I'm on a plane to New York, got a reservation.
After the hour of 9 o'clock, I really fail to see why it is so difficult to get through your heads just exactly what is going on. It has nothing to do with cowardly captains or generals sitting in the Pentagon who lack backbone. It has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with 2 things. First of all, a convoluted foreign policy in the Middle East, and secondly, this great show of bravado, sending American warships into the Persian Gulf. They can't do anything but be there. And why that is such a difficult concept to comprehend is beyond me. And why you're not absolutely enraged that we would send those warships filled with your sons and brothers and next-door neighbors and cousins and maybe husbands and fathers on an impossible mission to do nothing more than display the flag. And then to have it demonstrated, as we've already had it demonstrated last night and today, that they are cannon fodder. And that we cannot and we will not intervene in any shape, manner, or form. It's as plain can be. I don't understand. Clearwater, you're on the air to WPLP.
Hey, Bob.
Yes?
How about a woman's opinion? Okay?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Here's what I think. I think considering the fact that AWAC had clocked that Iraqi plane from the time it started off the ground, started down the runway, and when it let that Exocet missile go, it kept notifying the ship just where it was. I think the whole thing was planned as an effort to get us in deeper over there.
Ma'am, everything I've said has gone over your head. There will be no retaliation.
No,
under any circumstances or conditions, and if we lost another ship tonight, this time due to the Iranians, it would still be the same situation.
I bet we put more ships over there. I bet we do. We're going to get into it deeper.
Went over your head again, ma'am. No, we're not going to get into it deeper.
Why?
Because we don't want either side to win. We want the war to continue as a stalemate. We don't want either side to win.
Well, everybody has their own opinion. Okay.
Man, it's not an opinion. It is the stated policy of this administration. They have already admitted they don't want either side to win.
Well, what's the use of it then?
What is the use of it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that someone finally asked, because, again, we have a very convoluted, three-pronged answer to that.
Okay, let's hear it.
First of all, if the Iraqis win, then the administration is troubled that there would be Soviet influence in Iran. If the Iranians win, they will continue their fundamentalist revolution into Kuwait. And if either side wins, the Israelis are scared you-know-what-less that they will, either side, no matter who it is, wins, will cause further turmoil in the Middle East that will be a problem to the Israelis. That's why we don't want either side to win. We don't want it. We don't even want the war to end.
All right, now just a minute. You said if Iran wins, we're afraid that they will get into Kuwait. Now, they're right across the bay, as you might call it, from Kuwait. If they can't take it in Iraqi, how are they going to take it in Kuwait? They can't do it.
Ma'am, Kuwait is even a smaller, less defended nation than Iraq.
The area. I know the map very well.
Well, ma'am, Iran doesn't have a water capability. They only have a land capability.
Well,
the only way they can get into Kuwait is to walk into it.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is, ma'am. They have no navy to speak of.
Kuwait doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Nor does Iran, ma'am.
Iran can't walk into Kuwait.
They could if they had Iraq.
Sure they could, but they haven't got Iraq.
Oh, Jesus.
Goodbye, Bob.
I really hate to be a sexist, but as my producer just pointed out, that's the woman's point of view. And I couldn't agree with you more, Michael. One line open. It's in Pinellas, 393-0057. Tampa, you're on there, WPLP.
Bob, the whole point is people are dying. You hit it right on the nail, you know? People are dying in this war.
Yep. On both sides, and now our side, too.
And we got to quit paying for war and start playing for peace. Thanks a lot for being there, Bob. I appreciate you a lot. Bye now.
Tampa, you're on there, WPLP.
How about just a quick aside before I get into the body of what I want to say. And it just amazes me how many people are drawing so many conclusions despite the fact that we still don't have a full story of what happened. We're still lacking a lot of detail. I just want to back up a couple of steps. I was cleaning out a big pile of newspapers and came upon something from about 3 weeks ago that tells me that the big guy's commie paranoia has struck again. About a month ago, the Soviets offered protection to Kuwaiti shipping, and a number of other countries in the Gulf have signed on to this. They could move their oil under the protection of the Soviet flag.
As have the British and the French. They're also there.
Mm-hmm. But what got us going was concern over the Soviet presence. And, so here was a marriage of convenience between a bunch of countries that basically loathe the Soviets and in fact, have bare-bones diplomatic relations with them, if any at all. And we have voluntarily, as a result, put ourselves in an indefensible position.
Well, let's back up and examine exactly what it is that you've just said for the benefit of most of my audience who apparently can't quite understand what's going on here.
I probably don't care anyway.
The Kuwaitis basically sell their oil to the Western world. And the Soviets have offered to help ships buying oil from Kuwait get out of the Persian Gulf. It is not the Iraqis that were going to bomb those ships because Iraq and Kuwait are allies. Mm-hmm. It was the Iranians that the Soviets were protecting the Western shipping from. This is insanity.
Oil that's going to benefit whom? It's going to benefit
the Western
Japan,
world, right? Japan and Europe.
And Western Europe. Obviously the French are capable of taking on this burden. The British certainly are. I question the need for us to absorb this burden to start with. I'm really at a loss on that. But in any case, we got the big guy reacting to this supposed Soviet inroad.
Well,
an inroad into what, a half a dozen theocracies?
Well, it would seem to me that probably the reason we don't want the Soviets, the French, or the British getting involved in this is that they're not going to go easy on the Iranians.
Mm-hmm.
They would go right after them, knock the hell out of their Air Force.
Sure, because they've been suffering at the hands of the Iranians a lot more than we have.
Exactly, but again, then, therefore, that would make the Iranians weaker and make the Iraqis stronger in the war, and so we have kind of stepped in and said, oh, no, you guys don't have to do this. We'll take care of this, even though we know in our hearts we're not going to do it.
And commie paranoia strikes again now, because the Iraqis and the Soviets have been on very uneasy terms now for at least a year. I mean, again, that has become a marriage of convenience, and the president of Iraq is not terribly enamored with what he's been getting from the Soviets. They've also been cutting back on some of the better weapons. I mean, the Iraqis are having to go to the French now to get their good stuff.
Yep.
Also, another question people don't seem to,
well, the Soviet, let's point something out. The Soviets aren't dumb enough to sell state-of-the-art military equipment. The Soviets sell obsolete military equipment.
Sure, I mean, they tried selling some state-of-the-art equipment to Gaddafi, and look what happened in Chad.
Well, that wasn't state-of-the-art equipment. That was ancient stuff.
There were a couple of T-72s there.
But it was still ancient stuff. It wasn't, it was kind of like selling a car without any of the options.
It would be like our selling F-4s. You know, it's not a great weapon, but it's a serviceable weapon and still a fairly desirable one. But again, you know, here we have the big guy and his bunch assuming the worst about the Soviets without evidence of the Soviets doing their worst. I mean, I think it's the assumption again that they are behind all the troubles in the Middle East, that ultimately it's agents of the Soviet that have been kidnapping our people in Lebanon. I mean, I think when you really get down to the Reagan psychology, they still view it strictly in this very bipolar sense.
Well, actually, Ronald Reagan has literally said what you have just said. He has drawn a map that somehow goes through Bulgaria and Nicaragua and all kinds of strange places and finally ends up back at the Kremlin.
And even through Tehran.
Right.
I mean, do you know of anybody in the world who probably hates the Soviets more than Tehran? Maybe
well, there's only one man.
The Afghans.
There's only one man on the face of the earth who is more anti-Soviet than Ronald Reagan, and his name is the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yeah. So, but you know, and you can even take it back 2 or 3 more years, and that was the reaction the Soviets had to, or that we had when the Soviets shot down Flight 7. I mean, there are lots of horrible things the Soviets do in the world. We don't have to make them up. We don't have to invent this stuff.
Ain't that the truth?
Did you read the Seymour Hersh book a couple of years ago about the shooting down of Flight 7?
No, but I am familiar with it.
God, I wish you would. I mean, it's just the ultimate blueprint of Ronald Reagan's mind. And those around him. It's terribly chilling, and it suddenly it makes a lot of this behavior more predictable. It doesn't make it understandable. It just makes it predictable.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm sorry to inject all this intelligence into the conversation.
I'm glad somebody is.
It's going to screw things up hopelessly now.
Be good.
Take care.
One line open. It's in Hillsboro. Largo, you're on air at WPLP.
Good morning, Bud. I trust you and yours are well.
Yeah.
Hey, Bud, talking about the Middle East, you know, back in 1983, the fall of, I had the unpleasant experience of being stationed in the Middle East. I was with the AWACS program. And 24 hours a day, we've got AWACS planes flying off the coast of Saudi Arabia in the Persian Gulf. There's 4 stationed in Riyadh. You know, Mecca is the religious capital of Saudi Arabia, and Riyadh, an airport, if you can believe that, is the main military base in central Saudi. And I know this is going to sound drawn out, but the point is, this AWACS plane is definitely very sophisticated, definitely very accurate. It does the job. And what I want to express to you is the fact that our American intelligence saw the plane launch that fired those missiles.
Oh, yeah.
We saw the plane launch. You stated, repeatedly, I might add, that traffic there is very, very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to disagree with you at first, but that would have been unfair because I worked the night shift at the Central Combined Operations Center from 6 in the evening till 6 in the morning. We were out straight. We were really overtaxed. And during the day it might have been, but at night, boy, we could pick them out day and left. You know, I don't give a damn. This could be... I don't know how sensitive this is, and I really don't give a damn because I've seen so much atrocities in Washington so far lately. But we'd sit there in this damn communications van and see the information piped down from the damn AWACS plane, and if a little triangle appeared on the blip, it was presumed hostile, probably Iranian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if a little circle appeared, well, it was a friendly. It could have been Kuwait, it could have been Iraq. And I'll bet you my life, I'll bet you damn right well that these controllers sat there and watched this circle arise out of Iraq. It presumed friendly, and they started racing across the Gulf. And the next thing they know, they got a 15-foot hole in the side of one of our frigates. You were very, very correct when you said that it's an obsolete tool that we're using. And it goes much further than that, Bud, because the intelligence is so damned obsolete. We don't even know who our enemies are, just like in Vietnam. We're so damn stupid in that part of the world. We really don't even take the time to try to understand the people that we're dealing with in this part of the world. I spent 4 months there, and I hate to, I don't want to shock anybody, but I dealt with Arabs, I dealt with Lebanese, and, they're people just like us, and they were kind enough to judge me on my own merits. I really took it as a shot in the butt when the Reagan administration chose to deal with the Iranians because our word was compromised. We were going to fight terrorism, and the Lebanese and the Arabs took us at our word, and Washington betrayed us. There's a lot of things over. We're definitely inept in the Middle East, Bob.
We're inept all over the world, I'm sorry to say. And we don't seem to understand that anybody has a valid point of view.
It's a damn shame. I mean, we can't be on a level with these people as far as our foreign policy goes. And as far as defending our own men over there, we don't even know where the enemy is. And we see them coming, and it seems at times that we just don't care. It really does. I was there in 1983, and I remember being evacuated out of our hotel. This was the time in the fall or the winter of '83 when Ronald Reagan signed an arms pact with the Israelis. And at 3 in the morning, we were rushed out of our damn hotel because of a damn a terrorist attack threat or an assumption. And, I dealt with these Arabs, and I've talked to them. As a matter of fact, there was a barber that I went to. His name was Abraham, a Lebanese who was working in Saudi Arabia, and he had 3 daughters still in Lebanon going to school. And he was assisting me. I was trying to learn enough Arabic just to deal with these people and try to get to know them. And the Arab people, they're pretty damn good towards Americans if Americans will allow themselves to be judged on their own merit. I find them to be no different than you and I.
Well, they're also a little bit impartial to people that come in and try to tell them how to live, and that's what we do all too often.
Oh, they're very, very resentful of that. They are damned resentful of that because they feel that they call us infidels, Bob.
Yes, I know.
And they say, you don't have any idea where we come from. And they feel like they're looked down upon.
For good reason.
They feel that way. And, Bob, I'm not prejudiced towards anyone or anybody. I was born and raised in a small town in Maine. And we didn't know any of this foolishness. And then I enlisted with the Air Force 1st Special Operations Wing, and I saw and I learned a lot. And the Arabs turned out to be pretty level-headed people, but they become definitely insulted and hurt when they think they're being looked down upon. And I really don't think that the Reagan administration has given them the same shake that we've given the Israelis. I think that it's been terribly, terribly biased. And all they want is to be heard. That's all they want.
Well, we feel a kindred with the Israelis, or at least some of us do, and obviously no kindred whatsoever with them good-for-nothing Arabs.
Well, Jesus, the Arabs, they're not really bad people, and I've got my I'm a Roman Catholic from Boston. My godfather is a Jew, and which is really weird. But my father just happened to grow up with this guy, okay? And I seem to hold a warmer regard for the Arabs that I've met in the Middle East. They really gave me a chance. They were cold towards me at first, and when I'd show up in this barber shop in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, you know, the business capital, I would show up with my book and my cassettes and trying to learn Arab. I wanted to be able to communicate with these people. They really warmed up, and they said, you know, he's an American, but gee, he's all right. And that's the kind of people they are. They're not bad people. And we're over there, we're on a half-assed mission, and we're even less equipped when it comes to knowing these people. And I really think we could solve a lot of our damn foreign policy problems by knowing who we're dealing with. And we make no attempt to do that whatsoever.
Thank you very much.
Hey, buddy, you take it easy, huh?
Be good.
Bye-bye.
The phone numbers that put you on the air at WPLP are in Hillsborough County, 224-0057, in Pinellas County, 393-0057, and anywhere else, toll-free, 1-800-334-0057.
Hear it first on WPLP. I mean, like, can we talk? Back in the good old days, you know, back up north, if somebody was over your house, if you had company, and some kind of green, slimy thing slithered across the wall, you would have died 1,000 deaths. And if you were at somebody else's house and the same thing happened, you would have suddenly remembered a previous engagement, got up, split, and never gone back. Well, now you live in Florida. And now, for some strange reason, you think that green... 9:50 the time. Let me go back over something that was raised with a caller maybe 3 or 4 calls ago, but deserves to be gone over again so that it becomes crystal clear in your mind and you can get some kind of an idea as to just how, God, I love this word, convoluted our thinking and policy is in the Middle East, okay? The Soviet Union also has warships in the Persian Gulf. The Soviet Union has warships in the Persian Gulf for the stated purpose of escorting tankers doing business with Kuwait in and out of the Persian Gulf. Kuwait is an ally of Iraq. Iraq is not about to attack people doing business with Kuwait because Kuwait is helping Iraq financially. Kuwait does virtually all of its business with Western nations. So the Soviets were willing to risk their own ships to escort tankers doing business with Kuwait in and out of the Persian Gulf. Why were they willing to do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because the Soviet Union is very, very nervous about Iran. The Ayatollah Khomeini has said he would also love to spread his fundamentalist Muslim revolution into the southern part of the Soviet Union, which is predominantly Muslim. The Soviet Union does not want to see Iran win the war. Nor do they wish to directly intervene. They could. They could easily attack Iran. But they don't wish to. Are you digesting this, I hope? Now, why is it, you would ask, that we would object to the Soviets escorting ships doing business with Kuwait and prefer to do the job ourselves, risking our own men and equipment? Why is that? Very simple answer. Because the Soviets would go after and destroy any Iranian planes coming to attack the tankers that they were escorting. We don't want the Iranian planes destroyed. That's why we don't want the Soviets escorting Western ships in and out of the Persian Gulf. Why don't we want Iranian planes destroyed? Very simple. We don't want the war between Iran and Iraq to end. How much more clear does it have to be made for you? The futility and the stupidity of our policy in that part of the world. and the total futility and stupidity of risking American servicemen and American warships in a totally vain attempt to fool people. Clearwater, you're on the air, WPLP.
You had a great monologue earlier, Bob. I want to say that Gaddafi is buying 30 Exocet missiles right now to use against U.S. ships in the Mediterranean. You can read that in the May 7th issue of Express magazine. Why are we giving, why did we give bad satellite information to Iraq so that they'd have their soldiers massacred in the war?
Well, we've given both good and bad. We gave bad when it served our purposes. We gave good when it served our purposes. Hello? Hello, hello, hello.
You said that we're trying to prolong the war, right?
Clearly.
Because for Israel's security reasons.
Well, that's part of the reason.
So then those 28 U.S. sailors who burned up, they're all, and also the 240 Marines who blew up, they're all martyrs for Israel then.
They're all martyrs for a very stupid administration because it isn't all Israel. That is one of 3 reasons that we would like to prolong that war. One of 3 reasons. And I'm not sure which one, if any one of them, takes dominance over the others. From everything I can see, there are 3 equal reasons.
Well, in part, they did die for Israel. I think that's the main reason.
In part, I suppose you can say they did die for Israel. I think that's probably valid in part.
Certainly, and I think that's the main reason. Israel wanted us to give the arms to Iran in the Iran Gate. That all came from Israel. Oliver North said that back in December. And that's why we're arming Iran, so that they would kill the Iraqis. And that's why we gave Iraq bad satellite information. And I think that it's immoral what we're doing, massacring the Iraqis and the Iranians just for Israel's sake. And I think it's almost...
Well, don't forget the Americans, too.
I think it's almost justice that we finally lost some lives there, that it comes back on us, too. I think that's only fair.
I can't argue with you on those points.
Very good. Thank you, Bob.
Take care. St. Pete, you're on the air, WPLP.
Yeah, Bob, congratulations again. I just want to mention this point. Don't let us ever forget that stupid U.S. representative, that Florida representative, that told that father and mother that their son had no business in Nicaragua building dams and doing what he was doing down in Nicaragua. I wonder if he's going to be there to receive the mothers and fathers and tell them the same thing. They had no business in the Gulf of Persia.
Well, actually, the very same thought came into my mind this afternoon.
Principle. But here's a stupid, moronic representative that the people in Florida elect, send him to Washington, and then he tells a grieving father and mother that the son had no business down there building dams and helping the poor people to build a better life. You know, Bob, I do believe that Reagan is still in Hollywood. He thinks that John Wayne is on one of these frigates or whatever they are. It never turns out that way. You see, this is real life. This is real death. It's not Hollywood. And this is where Reagan's brains are. They're still in Hollywood. And the country is suffering more and more for that stupid, ignorant, really, he knows nothing of the rest of the world. And still he'll have sacrificed men's lives because he really has got him in a position that he can't withdraw with some form of dignity.
Oh, what do you mean he can't withdraw with some form of dignity? He's found the ability to do so before. This fleet will sail off into the sunset before very much longer.
He may come out of this thing smelling like a rose. I hope he doesn't. Well, Bob.
That would be controlled by a traffic control system that would be controlled by equal numbers of Russians, numbers.
It's very simple because both countries have, I don't know what is wrong with the system. Because both countries have a vested interest in not ending the war.
Well.
And that's the problem.
Okay, so if they, and then instead of putting effort towards whether we should fire back or whether we should blow them out of the water, I think that our government and their government should put more effort to talking at tables in Geneva or wherever.
Just went over your head. Neither side, both sides, want the war to continue.
Opinion is not interested in getting rid of and ending the war.
That's right. Gotta run. Bye-bye.
You're listening to The Bob Lassiter Show on News Talk 57, serving Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. WPLP, Ellis Park. Stand by.
Tomorrow morning between 5:30 and 9 on the WPLP Morning News.
After the hour of 10 o'clock, welcome back. Third and final hour for this Monday night, May the 18th, 1987. I have a couple of news items recently off the wire, sitting in front of me right now. I just read through them as the music was playing. Michael just came in and handed them to me. And as I read them, the words of Ronald Wilson Reagan, our beloved leader, echoed through my mind. There are hazards in the defense of freedom. Their loss, referring to the 28 sailors, will not be in vain. And then the words of a caller we had in the first hour, who I can't quote, the best I can do is loosely paraphrase, something to the effect of, c'est la vie. Lose some, win some, you know? So the losses were minimum. Well, here's how minimum the losses were. Dateline, Tallahassee. One of the 28 sailors killed when Iraqi missiles struck the USS Stark in the Persian Gulf yesterday was Senior Chief Petty Officer Vernon Foster. The 33-year-old career Navy man was a navigator aboard the Mayport-based warship. Foster's parents live in Tallahassee. They are Mims and Leroy Gaines. When Foster's mother was notified today of her son's death, she was taken to a doctor and sedated. Friends and relatives filled the Foster home. One of Foster's 3 brothers said, "My brother's life was sacrificed for a mistake." Family members say Foster and his wife lived in Jacksonville and had 7 children. He was in the Navy 16 years after graduating in 1971 from Tallahassee Goodby High School. The other story, Dateline, Columbus, Ohio. An Ohio sailor aboard the USS Stark became a father today, but his family is still waiting to learn the fate of their seaman son. The family of Michael Anthony Nelson of Columbus learned this morning that their son's wife, Tracy, gave birth to a daughter this morning in Mayport, home base of the Stark. The 7-pound, 2-ounce girl was named Jessica. Back in Columbus, Nelson's mother, Maria, said she has talked to her 22-year-old son just this past weekend and said he was anxious about the baby. Mrs. Nelson said her son would finish his 4-year tour of duty later this summer and said the next time she expected to talk to him would be this summer when he returned to Florida. See, they're real human beings. Just like you, just like me, just like the guy next door. They're real real human beings on the U.S. ship. There are real human beings in Iraq. There are real human beings in Iran. And they're being used like pawns. Well, there's not a damn thing I can do about the Ayatollah Khomeini and his suicide attacks. I remember hearing a story retold for the umpteenth thousandth time this afternoon about how the Ayatollah has young boys wrapped up in blankets rolled across minefields. And that is a despicable act. But anyone who would needlessly and deliberately prolong that war is almost as guilty as the Ayatollah, wouldn't you think? And then I've heard all of the horror stories about Iraq, too. But again, anyone who would needlessly and deliberately prolong that war would be just as bad, wouldn't you think? And then anyone who would send the father of 7 needlessly, futilely, into the Persian Gulf, not in defense of freedom, but in a stupid display of macho strength. Anyone who would send a young man about to become a father for the first time into the Persian Gulf, not in defense of freedom, but in a stupid display of machoism, isn't a very nice man. Is he? And I know as long as it's not you or your kid or somebody that you know directly, it's sometimes very difficult to think of these people as human beings. They're just numbers. Numbers that you'll forget next week. Names that you'll never remember. Hometowns, families that you'll never think about. We're sent there for no reason under the sun. Again, listening to the top of the newscast, finally I walked out of the room, didn't want to listen to it. I heard reports of senators and congressmen in Washington getting all bent out of shape about, well, what was the policy on, retaliation, et cetera, et cetera. Why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? Did weapons work or didn't they? What's going on here? None of that is the point. The point is our policy that would forbid any type of retaliation. The point is our policy of sending these warships and these human beings into the Persian Gulf for no reason under the sun. The same exact type of logic that put the Marines in the middle of the airport in Beirut. Level ground surrounded by mountains. Mountains filled with hostile forces. Without any defenses. Simply for a show of strength. How much longer? How many more have to die? When are you going to stop putting up with this? When are you going to spend 30 seconds out of your valuable day, 30 seconds away from Jeopardy, 30 seconds away from Wheel of Fortune, to look at the obvious and see what is going on? As I speak, a half dozen hate calls. Tell him to go back to Russia. Come in. Well, obviously, I guess they weren't related to any of those people that died needlessly last night in the Persian Gulf. Obviously. They don't know why we're there. Nor do they care. good theater. Hey, yeah, let's show them commies and Arabs. Yeah, we'll show them commies and Arabs. Yeah, I said we lost a ship. Yeah, that's kind of cool, you know. We'll get them next time. Yeah, we got the best. We got the best weapons, and we're tough, and we're we could just drop a bomb over there, and then that would take care of everything, because then that would prove that we were right. You know, and unfortunately, there are just a tad too many people in this country who have that level of intellect. Just a tad too many. You know, there are literally times, and I feel really bad about admitting this. You can believe that or not. I don't give a damn whether or not you do. But there are literally times when I say to myself, give these people what they deserve. Give these people the scrap that they want. Give them everything they want. Blood, guts, gore. Let them start sending boys home in cardboard boxes again. Because that's what they deserve. It's one line open. It's in Hillsborough, 224-0057.
To join in the conversation, the number to call in Hillsborough County is 224-0057. In Pinellas County, 393-0057. And anywhere else in Florida, 1-800-334-0057.
23 million Americans suffer muscular back pain. Jan Drake of Bayside, New York, told us about her backache.
If I'm leaning or stretching or picking up my child, I have to bend down and lift her up, and I can feel that pressure on my back starting. I just get this throbbing sensation. I can't sit right. I can't get comfortable no matter what I'm doing.
What do you do for relief, Jan?
I take Doan's pills. I don't know what's in the pills, but they're terrific. They're really good.
Doan's backache pills contain a pain-fighting ingredient not found in any other leading analgesic. An ingredient so effective it relieves the minor pain of inflammation, muscle spasm, tightness, and stiffness for hours.
After I've taken Doan's pills, I feel like I'm physically able to do everything that I want to do. They're terrific.
You sound like you really like Doan's pills.
I am truly sold on these pills because they really do take the pain away.
Get fast backache relief with Doan's backache pills. Use only as directed.
And for warm relief, penetrating relief that lasts for hours, try Doan's backache spray.
First in news, WPLP.
Well, welcome to Florida. And I don't care if you've been here for 10 years or even 20 years, or if you just got here yesterday. Welcome to Florida. You now live in Florida, and there's a very sad fact of life. And that is that the weather here, the summers, the sun, the wind, the rain, are eventually going to get to you and to your house. And at some point, and you're probably not in the market tonight, but at some point, you're going to want to replace that screen room or the windows or the pool enclosure or the patio cover, the storage shed. At some point, you're going to have to. It's just a fact of life. I mean, there is nothing known to man, possibly outside of diamonds, that can hold up to the Florida climate. And when that day comes, and it might be next week or it might not be till next year, I hope you'll remember the name J&M Aluminum. Now, you can open up the phone book and you're going to find lots and lots of people only too happy to sell you things made out of aluminum this year. And most of them will do a fair job, but there's one that'll do a good job. Do it right the first time. Top quality products, top quality installation. J&M Aluminum. If you can conceive of it, and if it can be built in aluminum, J&M can do the job, and there's virtually nobody else that can say that. J&M Aluminum. They're located in St. Petersburg. You can reach them at 521-2675. That's 521-2675.
Every day, America's banks handle at least $25 billion. A certain amount of which will find its way into your pocket. The question is, what will you do with it once it's there? Well, the Wall Street Journal has some ideas. Every business day, the Journal brings you a wealth of information about investing, saving, taxes, real estate. In fact, the whole spectrum of personal money management, as well as a concise digest of business news that could help bring you more money to manage. All in all, a subscription to the Wall Street Journal is a necessity for anyone with an interest in money. Because while there's plenty of it around, unfortunately it doesn't come with instructions. Take advantage of the Journal's great subscription offer. 13 weeks, just $29.75. Only $29.75 for 13 weeks of the Journal.
To order the Journal, call toll-free at 1-800-228-5500. That's 1-800-228-5500. The Wall Street Journal, the daily diary of the American dream.
The time. Before I get back to the phones, just one more brief thing. I mean, just in case you're still not clear on this, just in case you're still not convinced, put this one in your pipe and smoke it. Last night, a U.S. warship was attacked. We knew who attacked it before it was attacked. It took the planes almost an hour to get back home. There was no effort made to go after them. Point number one, okay? Point number two, within hours of that, another ship, a tanker, was attacked in the Persian Gulf and seriously damaged, this time by the Iranians. And nothing was done about that. What are they there for? It's certainly not to punish the attackers. Or hadn't you thought about that yet? When are you going to ask, well, what in the hell are they there for? And if they're not there for anything, why are they there? Let's get them the hell out. Largo, your turn at WPLP.
Yes, Bob? Bob?
Yeah?
Oh, yes. You just mentioned a sad story, which is true, unfortunately. It's true. You said something about our policy. In my opinion, business as usual. The expander, the Pentagon, loved it. They are thinking on how much money they will make out of it. Maybe now they will place everybody on alert, and also will need more and more money to replace a sinking ship. But of course, more sophisticated. But human life, well, it's a matter of numbers. I believe we don't need those sitting ducks there. Even if they can defend themselves, the risk is too much. Yes, sir. I believe it's too much to lose and too little to gain. But the big boys have to justify the defense. The budget's already out of proportion. And with the spectators, some we get hungry, some frustrated, some don't understand. Others, people, some will want to play a Rambo, want to nuke them. And at the end, all the war will end at the negotiation table. I believe it's not a surprise that U.S. did sell arms to Iran. And it wouldn't be surprised to imagine that did sell arms to Iraq also. What they do with their weapons, they destroy their own terminal to each other. The result of that, it will be less oil for the Western Hemisphere, and oil goes up. Of course, gasoline with it. The big boy here, they make more money. They don't worry about those things. They also sell new oil terminals. They also sell insurance and shit. It goes up. Oil goes up. And make the big boys even richer. So the boys don't want to end the war, nor in the Middle East or Nicaragua or Cuba, because they wouldn't have excuses to give to the American taxpayer in order to get more money for their defense budget.
Well, as I pointed out in my monologue, the only people that are running around screaming our national security is in jeopardy here, there, and everywhere are the people who are employed in the war industry.
Exactly. We have to have an Iran, Iraq going on, and I believe this happened. This all started in World War II when we developed a weaponry system so juicy in money that the big boys said it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep with it, to keep on, keep on going. So we had. Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Grenada, Salvador, etc., etc. The big boys do as they please, and they don't matter. They don't care. They don't matter who is the president. They will manage. They have a good management system. If they get, if the president gets funny, they will do him. They did Kennedy, his brother, and so forth. And the American people, and me myself, I was not born in this country, but I choose it. Your friend, you choose them, you pick them. Your family, sometimes you stuck with them. And I'm not a refugee. I came here in my own, with my family. I love America, but I hate to see all this going on. I've been listening to your program, and you are a very intelligent person. Unfortunately, there's no many like you in this country. What is going to happen? I'm wondering what is going to happen in the future. I got kids, American kids. What's going to happen in the future if we don't think a little bit? What is this macho image?
Well, you have, unfortunately, an awful lot of your neighbors that just don't give a damn what's going to happen in the future.
Well,
because they don't think it affects them.
We're all going to pay one way or another. We're talking about human life. This is not numbers. This is human life. Anybody, American, other people, just people. What the heck is going on in this world? Why don't we just stop this? We have to stop wars. People die in war. And even the thought of the people will die, keep on dying after war. We already have experience in this country. What's happened after war? And it keep on going on, and people don't wake up. Just please take your bag out of your head and think, people. I'm not talking about you, Bob, because according to what I hear, the little bit I hear, I get hooked on your program. As a matter of fact, I was looking for the Spanish radio station, and boy, I was hooked. Maybe some of those people will wake up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Good night.
Tampa 224-0057, Pinellas 393-0057. You know, I'm sitting here listening to that caller and watching the phones, and every now and then I get to thinking, you know, what's the use? What is the use? Why even bother to try to explain something? And I'm watching the hate calls come in left and right, which is telling me that I'm getting to you guys. I'm getting to you real bad. And it makes it all worthwhile. You can't stand a word I'm saying, and it makes you so damn mad because you just can't refute it. So the best you can do is to call up the producer. You're making my night, boys. And girls, you're making my night. Town and Country, hi, you're on the air, WPLP.
Yes, Bob.
Yes.
The only alternatives that I can think of is one, either just attack and neutralize both sides, which probably won't happen, or just take everything that we have, all our men and ships, and just leave. Whether we get laughed at or humiliated or what. Because the way I see it, it's better, having criticism than dead Americans.
Well, this administration has quite a track record of just picking up and leaving. We redeployed out of Lebanon. We redeployed back to North Carolina or South Carolina. Not sure which now. These people have no problem whatsoever in coming up with asinine excuses for getting the hell out of Dodge.
Well, the way I see it is we're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't attack, one side or the other, and you can't just sit there either.
You got it. You have it precisely.
So you either just attack both sides or leave. I don't know. Attacking both sides probably won't happen anyway, so.
Oh, I don't think so. Most unlikely. Most unlikely. Because if we did that, if we were to do that, then we make an awful lot of people in the Middle East really mad. See, Iran has friends and Iraq has friends.
And it's probably start another war or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
On a larger scale this time.
Much larger. So that's not an option. The only option is to get out of Dodge.
That's the way I see it.
You know, we already have those nice, friendly Soviets who are willing to risk their boys in escorting those ships, going to Western ports. What the hell? Let them do the job.
Sure.
Thank you much.
Why waste American lives, you know, and they're willing to give up their own over there.
You got it. Thank you, my friend. Tampa, your turn at WPLP.
Hey, good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
I'm calling, are you still on the issue of the missiles?
Yep.
With the Stark?
Uh-huh.
All right. There was one point, and you put it well, about no winning war over there. However, is there another point also that maybe one another reason that this war is not going to end, at least so soon, maybe because of the artillery and the weapons being sold to these countries?
Well, of course.
You know, they have been, fighting about like since 1979. That's about 8 years.
That's right. Going on 8 years now.
8 years, exactly. And now we only had one issue was in public about selling the arms to them. However, what about the last 7 years? Definitely they have been buying missiles, and I mean, not missiles, but...
Missiles and spare parts and all kinds of goodies.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad to see you are on this issue. That issue was not really public for a long time, right after our hostages were released. Really, nobody went into it to see what's happening over there. And I really appreciate, you know, at least bringing up this subject.
Well, the Western world has been selling to Iran from the very beginning, and the Western world has been selling to Iraq from the very beginning.
Oh, definitely. God bless you, definitely. And that is a shame because...
and providing both sides with information, sometimes false information.
So true, so true. And that's an unfortunate. I know about Iran. I am from Persia myself. And I had to leave that country after that guy took over. And I can tell you that there are many people over there who are tired of what has happened to them since 1979.
Well, of course.
You know, it was ridiculous, as you say, maybe a loony, and that's the way it is over there. It is unfortunately now a minority group ruling over the rest of them. And believe me, there was a gentleman who called before and telling about the Arabs, that they're nice people. I think that goes for everyone. You know, for all the continents, everywhere, you can find people that not definitely the people are against the people.
There's no such thing as an inherently bad people.
Exactly, exactly. You know, I was here in this, probably I had the privilege to be here for the last 8 years. And I built up from zero, just from zero in here. And I had also a chance to observe what was happening over there for the last 7 years. And that's a chaos. I can at least tell that in the Persian part, it's a chaos.
And once more, we're raising up still another generation in the Middle East, all over the Middle East, not just in Iran and Iraq, of young men and women who see this country just constantly meddling, who see this country just being nothing but a merchant of death.
That's true. That's true.
One more generation, we're proving that we are indeed the Satan.
No doubt about that. Maybe 7 years ago it was just a propaganda, maybe. But now it's returning to a fact for those people. A kid who was only 12 years old is now 18 years old now. He's a young man, has got his own ideas. And what he has found during this last 8 years, God knows, you know, what has been going on around him. And he definitely cannot have a healthy point of view to see what's happening, really. And that's so truly a shame. And, well, hopefully one day it has to end. I mean, sooner or later.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, anyway, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. St. Pete, you're on the air at WPLP.
Good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
Happy Victoria Day. You know that's Victoria Day in Canada?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
And next Monday is Memorial Day in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have a lot of memorials to think about. I wanted to ask you one question you probably are very knowledgeable of. How much is it costing the United States of America to keep those ships there every day?
I frankly would have no idea, but millions of dollars, obviously.
That's what I was going to ask. We've got oil in Texas that they've closed the holes up because it's too expensive to operate. Why don't we subsidize our own oil wells in Texas and around the country, Oklahoma, wherever it is? Why should we sell our oil to Japan from Alaska cheap and then spend these billions of dollars patrolling the Persian Gulf?
Well, that would seem to make sense. It would definitely seem to make sense. But unfortunately, the people in power don't look at it that way, because by selling our oil here and there and by putting our nose in this place and keeping our thumb under those people or on those people, we We exercise influence, quote unquote, around the world. And that, the business of America is business, is really what it all boils down to. And I never thought I would end up saying that. 5-10 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. I'll never say that. That's the lunatic left's complaint. But the business of America is business, and we use our military for the express purpose, no other purpose, than to ensure that business stays good.
Well, what kind of business?
Every kind of business.
You mean death business, Memorial Day business?
No, all kinds of business. As an example, the only reason we're involved in Central and South America is not because we're interested in promoting democracy. No. We're interested in Central and South America because they owe American banks close to $300 billion that if they reneged on, would totally collapse the American banking system.
I heard a caller earlier say that we should make them states. Isn't that ridiculous? That would be just like taking over.
Well, most callers, unfortunately, are ridiculous.
Did you hear that? Someone mentioned about taking over the Central America and make them states.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I've heard this kind of nonsense before.
Well, I just thought I'd say good evening. I enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
The phone numbers that put you on the air at WPLP are in Hillsborough County, 224-0057. In Pinellas County, 393-0057. And anywhere else, toll-free, 1-800-334-0057. As indicated in recent tragic news reports, what appear to be harmless childhood diseases can often be symptoms of something far more serious. There's nothing more important than the health of your children. So when they really don't feel good, don't rely on home remedies. Consult a professional, like the pediatric specialists at the Diagnostic Clinic. The Diagnostic Clinic has been providing superior medical care to Tampa Bay for almost 20 years with the latest in medical technology and the personal attention of a corps of dedicated specialists, physicians with the medical training and experience you need. The Diagnostic Clinic offers the most efficient and personal care in over 25 specialized fields, including pediatrics, cardiovascular surgery, dermatology, neurology, obstetrics, and gynecology. In short, practically every branch of medical science. No matter what your needs, Diagnostic Clinic can help. Even emergency attention at our urgent care center. Diagnostic Clinic at 1551 West Bay Drive in Largo. Call 581-8767. Or in their satellite office in Countryside, 799-1785. Diagnostic Clinic, coming soon to Seminole.
News Talk 57, WPLP.
Whirling, turning, spinning around. It's family fun, 30 feet off the ground.
Now, Kodak can save you up to $400 with discount admissions, plus other valuable offers at 40 of the greatest theme parks and attractions in America. Just buy 2 rolls of Kodak color film. Get a theme park pack from Kodak and get in on the savings. Get in on the fun.
So much to see and so much to do. Get a theme park pack from Kodak. Let it happen to you.
Accidents happen, but what happens afterwards in the body shop is no accident.
You're going to replace my GM fender with an imitation? Sorry, that's all your insurance company would go for. But are these imitations any good? Well, some don't even come close to GM specs for fit, finish, or corrosion protection. Oh, so what do I do now?
Remember, it's your car and it's your choice. Call your insurance agent and insist on genuine General Motors parts. You'll be glad you did.
A message in the driver's interest from the parts people at General Motors.
Hi, everybody. On this Monday night, join us for the start of another night and another week of great Larry King listening. 2 outstanding guests tonight. W. Clement Stone, the famed financier, will be aboard, plus Dr. Morton Halpern, author of the new controversial book, Nuclear Fallacy. That's the Larry King Show tonight, plus Open Phone 87, all here on this mutual radio station.
10:40 the time into the home stretch. Hi, St. Pete. You're on the air at WPLP.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, first-time caller. I'd just like to say that once upon a time there used to be a basic policy for the Middle East force over there, and it was just to show the flag, get off the boat at the end of the day with your white uniform and promote good relations. I think you hit it right in the head when you said that America's business is business, and if you promote good relations, that was the primary goal of the Middle East force. I was in the Navy until 1980, and I'm not really aware of any extravagant buildups, but the Middle East force is generally made up of ships donated rather reluctantly by Atlantic and Pacific fleets. They were grossly undertasked, and I was unfortunate enough to find myself on a frigate November 4th, 79, and we were on station for 35 or 40 days during the beginning of that incident. I'd just like to say that I can see something like this happening unless you know the threat is imminent and you're in a little bathtub of Gulf there. There's just no room to operate, and it's unfortunate. It really saddens me every time I see a ship take a hit like this. But that's one of the things that happens when you play around the rough neighborhood. You have to be willing to take lumps like that. It's unfortunate. So I think people ought to become aware of where this country's heading. And trying to cover all the bases of the world, and we really ought to get out there and try and bring about some kind of change.
Well, we also have to live up to a harsh reality in this country, and that is that the future has passed us by.
Yeah.
No longer can you go and sit a battleship off the coast of a country and intimidate them, because even the smallest country, if it can scrape together an airplane and $1 million, is your equal to that battleship.
Right.
Or frigate or destroyer or anything else you want.
Yeah, that's a story.
Those days of gunboat diplomacy are gone.
People need to get more involved. It's sad that the eligible voters are not registered and then don't come out in force.
Well, it's even sadder that the people who do bother to register and go out and vote frequently don't think about what in the hell the policy of the country is. Does it make any sense?
No, but the Middle East force back when, like before 1980, was a very basic force. They used to brief us, and the most important thing for us to do is to go over and make a good showing of ourselves, not to get too intoxicated and raise too much heck, and just be good boys to promote the relationships we need to do business with that part of the world. It's a very foreign part of the world for most Americans. They just wouldn't imagine. Very arduous duty.
There's nothing evil about doing business. There's nothing evil about it at all unless you push your weight around in order to do business. Then it becomes evil.
No, I could see the EWs on board that ship just watching it all unfold, but not really being able to believe it. Because, like I said, the threat is not imminent. I just hope people don't jump to the conclusion, well, we pay all these millions and we don't have any, we can't protect ourselves. That's not true. It was like a sucker punch. We have to take their word that it was an accident, and, hopefully it won't happen again. But when you go into a tough...
But you don't understand. If they came out tonight and said, well, no, it wasn't an accident, we did it deliberately, what are you going to do about it?
Well,
there is still nothing we would do because there's nothing we can do.
Well, I think we'd shoot the next one that came near us. But...
No, we wouldn't.
Well, I don't know what that...
Because Iraq just doesn't have that many planes.
I know. Well, yeah, I know. And, what really makes me mad is I was over there. I was an electronic warfare technician. I was responsible for the operating equipment that is supposed to detect and, knock these things down. And it's just unfortunate because here all these years, last few years, we've been supplying them with stuff. And I knew damn well in the back of my mind that the Iranians did not have the supplies. They didn't have them in 78. They didn't have them in 79. And it never dawned on me to ask myself, where are they getting all this war equipment? I knew the Israelis were doing it, and I hated it. I hated them doing it. But come to find out, we've been doing it, too.
The Iranians have gotten down there nothing from Russia.
I'd like to find an argument that says that, that proves that your point, is just that we don't want it to end. It's too simplistic, but I just can't come up with a good argument.
Well, the administration has literally said that is our goal. We don't want it to end.
Yeah, but it
every now and then...
In that area to work...
Well, hear me out a second. Every now and then, Ronald Reagan, as he did today, will say something utterly absurd like, what we want is a negotiated settlement. Give me a break. This is a religious war. Both of these countries feel as though the land they're fighting over is theirs.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any negotiated
made me
settlement.
sick over the years. I wish I could take my 2 votes back. I voted for him twice, and I wish I could take them back. You can't do that in this country. That's why you have to be wise about who you choose.
That's for sure. Thank you, my friend.
All right.
Bradenton, you're on the air, WPLP.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
As usual, the longer I listen to your program, the madder I get. It's just incredible to me that people just don't seem to understand. As long as people believe that their vote is not worth anything, they'll be proven right every time. Most people really don't care about what you're talking about tonight. You know, it has no bearing on anything they're doing, and it's...
Well, in their humble opinion, I'll agree with you on that. In their opinion, it doesn't have any bearing.
How many times do we have to go through situations like this all around the world that is rightfully ours? It resides with the people.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I go back to 1980 and 1984, the only thing that I recall the Reagan administration saying concerning foreign affairs and the conduct of foreign policy is that we're going to build up the military.
Everybody thought that was a great idea.
Exactly, because everybody thought that the rest of the world will just capitulate to us and do whatever it is that we want them to do, because we're going to have this big, strong military again.
I think it also goes hand in hand with the idea that everybody was rubbing their hands gleefully saying, hey, my state's going to land a lot of big defense contracts.
Well, in some areas of the country, yes, I'm sure that was part of the consideration.
You know, I mean, who cares? As long as we're getting fat and happy, you know, and that's the way it seems like our understanding of foreign affairs always goes.
This country needs a good war in the streets, you know. This country needs the American people to see what war is firsthand, not on the television.
I think the person that really saw it was George Orwell. I think he really saw the whole idea of modern warfare is not to win; it's to stalemate yourself silly, and you keep selling things and you know, buying time for your obsolete economy to keep functioning.
I guess it's almost futile to expect the American people to realize the futility, the stupidity, and the folly of war, since virtually none of them have ever seen it.
Well, there was a really good comment by Juan Perón, who you know, was another really great leader of his country and everything, but he did have a very, very insightful comment about the way we conduct ourselves, we Americans conduct ourselves. He was speaking of Central and Latin America, but it could have been anywhere. And he called it Pentagonism. And he said it's the policy of the Pentagon not to deliberately dump material into the sea, but it's their, because that would absolutely have no, you know, moral meaning whatsoever. But it's their same principle to dump their ideology and their material somewhere so that it can be replaced by more stuff, and it just feeds on itself. And
it's too bad that Mr. Perón didn't know that we did exactly that at the end of the Second World War in the Pacific. We literally dumped it into the sea.
Oh, yeah.
Things that could have been used, I mean, I'm talking about not just airplanes and bombers and tanks and guns, but bulldozers and steam shovels that could have been used for civilian purposes. We still dumped it into the sea.
Yeah, you've got MacArthur to thank for that, primarily.
Thank you much.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
St. Pete, you're on the air, WPLP.
Good evening, Robert.
Good evening.
What I don't understand is we have all of these unemployed workers in Texas and Oklahoma, Louisiana. Why don't we put a surtax on the oil and start pumping it here and just... let's forget about these creeps.
American people won't put up with it, sir.
Go to hell with their oil.
The American people wouldn't put up for that.
Well, sooner or later we're going to have to.
Sooner or later we are going to have to, and when we have to, then we'll do it. But right now, as an option, the American people wouldn't do it.
The other thing is, one gentleman that called, I think it was the second call before, you know, he talked about the small size of the ships and whatnot. I noticed that it was an aluminum-built ship again. Just like the British back in the...
Well, no, it's an aluminum superstructure.
Aluminum superstructure.
A steel hull, but it went through the hull anyway.
If they'd have had a destroyer in there, the missile would have bounced off it.
Well, it went through the steel hull. It didn't go through the upper aluminum.
Hit the hull?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, blew a 10 to 15-foot hole in the hull. It didn't, the Argentinian missiles hit the upper superstructure.
Right. They went right down. They dropped one right down the stack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, these went...
On one of the ships.
This one went right through the steel hull.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I just see, I'd be willing to pay $2 a gallon for gasoline right now if we didn't have to buy any oil. I ride a motorcycle most of the time, and I drive a big car when I drive a car, so I'd eat it. But all the people would go back to work again in the oil fields, and of course the alternative fuel things. What the hell? Hitler did it in the 40s.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, this administration...
Gasoline out of coal.
Of course, this administration has shut down the Synfuels Corporation. They literally shut it down.
Well, I'm aware of that. I listened to your show. I wouldn't be listening to your show if I didn't totally agree. It was ridiculous. Jimmy Carter, I think, had the Synfuel going pretty good.
And Ronald Reagan patted himself on the back and congratulated himself the day that he shut it down.
Yeah. Well, what the hell? He's a dead duck, but we still got 2 more years.
Lord help us. Thank you. St. Pete, your turn at WPLP.
Good evening, Bob.
Hi.
Bob, I couldn't help but think that our form of government, democracy, is based on the conviction that man has the moral and intellectual capacity, as well as the inalienable right to govern ourselves with reason and justice. But thinking about those things, our leader lacks 3 of those ingredients: the intellect, the reason, and a sense of justice. And our only hope is that this eternity till the next election will not be blundered much more than it already has. He's incredibly bad.
Well, the problem is there are just so many powder kegs waiting to be set off all over the world. Lord only knows what will happen tomorrow.
Well, it's true. And like you said, our position there is just absolutely incredibly dumb. There is no win situation. It's just an impossible situation. And as long as we're going to keep ourselves exposed like that, these instances are going to increase. They're not going to diminish. We're going to see more of it.
Well, we have a lunatic sitting in Iran, and we have now clearly demonstrated to him that we're not going to do anything to alter the balance of power in that war. He's already brought down one president. He's working on a second one. I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if sometime in the next several days to see an overt attack on an American warship by Iran.
Oh, I wouldn't
also go unanswered.
But maybe Reagan can reach down into his hero basket and send Ollie North in there to clean things up. That's sarcastic, I know, but he made that statement.
I'd like to sit him on the end of a shelf in the New Jersey and fire it.
Well, it's incredible. It's been a very interesting show tonight.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
St. Pete, I've got about a minute.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, I've got about a minute.
Okay, we paid $230 billion for our defense, right?
Wrong, it's closer to $300 billion.
Okay. What bothers me is we found out when Jimmy Carter was there that we couldn't even rescue because the helicopters didn't work. We found out that apparently this ship can defend itself. What is the money going for, Bob?
I have no answer for you. I have no answer for you at all.
Well.
But it's a question that everyone should be asking.
Well, I've enjoyed your show, and I just said, hey, we're in a lot of trouble, and I don't think people understand how much trouble we're in.
Thank you.
With all the technology, right?
Thank you very much. Fresh out of time for this evening's program. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock, same time, same place. You know all that kind of good stuff. And until then, what else can I possibly say? Behave yourselves.